Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. We're here with Clint Curtis, who's the co-founder and CEO of Zapmoto. How are you?
Happy to be here. Now I got my Diet Dr. Pepper. Thank you.
There you go.
And my my pink Monster. I just heard they're discontinuing these, and I'm super bummed because it's like my favorite flavor.
You're going to be animated?
No, I got to get like 2 in me before I get next level. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. We were talking a little bit beforehand, and there's very few websites that I spend very much time on. But I was intrigued, and I spent a decent amount of time on your website, just as like a plug right out of the gate. It was fun.
Look at you, man. Your check's in the mail.
It was
Thank
fun.
you.
Yeah. But let's hear what Zapmoto is and the founding story.
Yeah. So it started out. So I've been in the automotive industry for 15 years. When I, I dropped out of college because I wanted to be in the car business, which is insane. But my older brother was in it and was doing well, and we started a little dealership, and that I was in. I remember selling cell phones for Sprint. While I was going to school full time, newly married, and this guy came in that worked at the Mannheim Auto Auction up in Woods Cross, and I ended up selling a bunch of cell phones to the guys at the auto auction. But he came in, and me and him ended up chatting, and he showed me this magical thing called Mannheim Market Report, MMR. You could log in, and then you could see and pick out the year of the car, the make and the model, and it would show you what all the dealers were paying for them. And I saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was like magic, And I made him sit with me for an hour while I just like scrolled through like different, cars. And then I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, it'd be so fun to buy and then sell these. So yeah, we figured out and dropped out of school and started a car dealership. Anyways, but that was about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. The moment for me was I took my kids to go see Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet. And you'll find out if you talk to me for a long time. I'm a weird Disney guy. Like, I love Disney. Like, turkey legs, Dole Whips, Wreck-It Ralph, I'm in. Anyways.
It's a happy place.
Oh, yeah, dude. So anyways, I was watching the Wreck-It Ralph, and there's a part where he goes, have you seen it?
I believe I have.
Well,
parts of it.
If we take anything from this, you need to go rewatch it because it's great. But anyways, there's a part where he's shooting into the internet with Vanellope, right?
Yeah.
And Von Schweet. And they go in and they're shooting into the internet, and then you see all these internet companies, and there's Amazon and there's Google and da-da-da. And then out of nowhere, there was Carvana. And I'm like, wait, what? What is this? Anyways, and so then I go look it up, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, these guys are onto something. Because Carvana, their model was, hey, buy the car from us straight up online. Don't talk to anyone. Don't talk to a salesman, and we're gonna send it to you. And so I started looking at them over and over again, and I'm like, dude, between this and like autonomous cars, like car business is gonna go away.
Yeah.
And then I was following Tesla, and Tesla was fighting at that point. A year or two later, they were fighting legislator-wise with, in Utah to be able to have the right to sell cars because they didn't want to have a dealership.
Yep.
They don't want to have a dealer's license. Anyways, I'm like, and they wanted to go direct to consumer. So I'm looking at all this, and I'm like, we're in trouble. I'm like grinding it out, building a small business, and like, it's going to be gone in 10, 15 years, And so me and my brother were talking, and because he owned another dealership too at this time, a little independent dealership as well. And he's like, hey, what about DoorDash, but for Uber Eats, but for cars?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, all right. There might be something there. So anyways, I'm like, well, I want to try it. So at that point I was a partner in a dealership called Automax. And we had 6 rooftops across the Wasatch Front, like 40, 50 cars each. And so I said, hey, I want to throw a little thing on every single one of these listings, a little blurb. And so I put in every listing we had. We had about 300 cars for sale, and it just said, too busy. We have a third-party service that'll bring you the car $10 charge applies, refunded if purchase is made. Call us for details.
Yeah.
And then I talked to our receptionist, and I said, hey, if anyone calls in and asks about a car and they ask about these two things, this little blurb here, I just want you to send me the call. I don't care what store it is. I don't care, who the sales guys are. Just send it to me.
Okay.
So then she would transfer me the call, and I just pretended like I was another company. And I was like, oh, yeah. And at that point, I was calling it Test Drive Valet. And I had me, I had my mom, and my father-in-law, and we'd do these little drives, these little test drives. My father-in-law did a couple, and then he quit answering my phone calls, which is also a pattern. Is when you're doing a startup and you get the family and friends involved, like at first everyone's excited, but then after a while it's like, dude, just kind of leave me alone.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all good. They're awesome.
They'll
come around.
back.
Yeah. No, they've my family, both sides of my family, including you, Tom, has been incredibly supportive, and they're all amazing.
Good.
But anyways, the feedback I would get was just awesome. Like the people are like, they buy the car. They're like, oh my gosh, this was so nice because I didn't have to talk to a salesman. Oh my gosh, this is so low pressure.
Yeah.
So kind of we were onto something. And then went out and got a couple dealers to try it because I figured, okay, people will pay for it. Now will dealers pay for it? And it's just kind of you iterate, right? But what was funny is everyone always is like, if you got a startup idea or whatever, they're like, got to go build an app. I'm going to go build an app. I'm going to go, make this really cool program and da-da-da. And one thing that I feel like we really got right early on is don't build anything, man. You don't even know what you need to build, right? What's the easiest, most simple way that you can execute an idea manually and do it that way? And then that'll dictate, what you're gonna make. Anyways, so yeah, you flash forward now. We have a marketplace that you were on.
Yep.
We've got about a little under 12,000 cars listed for sale from local dealerships on the Wasatch Front, where a customer can go on, find a car, summon it, have it brought to them by a non-biased third party for a fee similar to what you pay for DoorDash if you're getting your Chick-fil-A nuggets, delivered.
Yep.
With the poly sauce. I like the poly sauce or the spicy sriracha.
There you go.
What's your favorite?
Ranch.
All right, a classic, man.
Classic.
Anyways, so for the same brand and for non-committal, let me test drive the car, and our valet drivers are trained to just be, we call it a barbershop relationship. Just you're there as a friend. They have no incentive they're not allowed to sell you anything. It's actually illegal. They're not licensed salespeople. And they're non-biased third party. And when you're done, you dictate when you want to talk to that salesman at the dealership representative, and then they can get your deal done. And so that was the genesis, but that's kind of where we're at now.
Love it. Great story, and some nuggets of information was shared there.
I like what you did there with nuggets, Chick-fil-A.
There you go.
Layers upon layers, dude. We're getting deep already.
Just build it manually. Like you don't need a huge enterprise app or anything like that out of the gate. All right. So let's say I win the lottery today.
Yeah.
And
congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll put that one in California. It's like $1 billion.
Yeah. That's my hope. And I want a Ford Raptor, right?
Yeah.
For me, it would probably end there, right? Because I'm like, well, I got to drive to a dealership. And I don't mind the used car salesman. It's always kind of a fun exercise. I usually feel bad for them a lot of the times. But
is that the New Year's resolution in you that's like exercise is fun?
No.
All I heard just now is it's kind of fun exercise. I don't know where that comes from, man.
Yeah, you can tell. But if I could have it brought to the house or work, they're one step closer to like selling that thing, right? And so you mentioned it's a barbershop kind of relationship. If this were to happen, we'll just say it does. They show up and I can drive it on the freeway,
Yeah.
in a school zone, and we just have a fun conversation about the weather and sports.
Whatever you want to talk about, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the customer dictates that. Sometimes the main thing though is if we're not allowed to give our opinion.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, like, dealers, they understand this consumer behavior is changing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, relinquishing that control is really, really hard for them. And, sitting in that same seat for a lot of years, like, it's terrifying because you want to be there to read the person. You want to be able to look them in the eye. You want to be able to ask them questions, and find out their hot buttons so that you can find out their objections to not buying your car and close those doors so they eventually sign, right?
Right.
But yeah, or with the consumers and the people that order test drives and things like that, everything is just designed. Every piece of the puzzle is designed to be low barrier, low pressure. Because you can go to a dealership, and I know almost everyone that's in the auto business in Utah, like on the Wasatch Front, and there are a lot of guys that are, for the most part, they're really nice, amazing, honest people. But the problem that you have is fragmentation, and that's what the customer doesn't know. Is it, am I going to talk to a good one or a bad one?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can provide an experience that is an In-N-Out cheeseburger, that it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
No matter if it's a $3,000, Prius with 200,000 miles or a $100,000 Raptor for someone that won the lottery.
Yeah.
We can provide that same experience across the board. We feel like it's a win. It's not only a win for the customer, but it's also a win for our dealer partners.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sitting there with my $100,000 in cold hard cash.
Not Bitcoin.
No, U.S. dollars. And I wouldn't say, all right, I'm in, here's the 100,000, you take an Uber back to wherever you came from, right? Like, that's not how the transaction would work.
It can't, we see a future where we do want that to happen, just for efficiency.
Yeah.
But right now, we still want you to have contact with that dealership. We want there's liability that happens there. There's with identity and things like that, where we want them involved in that piece of the transaction so that they're still doing their job.
Yeah.
But we want to take away that initial contact, that initial awkwardness when you walk in and you're like, and there's three dudes. I shouldn't say dudes. There's three people, sitting on a golf cart staring at you, and you don't know which one's going to pounce on you.
Yeah.
If we can take that away, and let's just get the product in front of you as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
In an easy way and low pressure way, and then when you're ready, you can initiate that. We can help you initiate that conversation with the dealership, and then they can take it from there.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm out $15.
Yeah, it depends on how close you are to the dealership. It's just like an Uber, right? So say we're here in Lehigh in this beautiful studio, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. I even have coasters.
You do have 2 coasters.
No, but and say you're looking at one in like Bountiful or something like that. Yeah, we want compensation on that would be like $25, right? Plus a tip if you decide to give them a tip. So we want to make it cheap and easy, right? And then we don't operate like DoorDash or Uber or Lyft where we hold back whatever the customer pays. Whatever you pay us, we give straight to our valet.
Perfect.
Yeah. Just because we feel that puts our valets in a position where their only incentive is to make everything as pleasant as possible for you.
Yeah. Don't crash the car on the way there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Low bar there. Okay, so I'm starting to see the vision come together, and having not ever worked in the auto industry, but having done a fair amount of these podcasts, I can start to see like where you're going to earn your entrepreneurial chops. Right? You've got the valet, which we've talked about. That one seems pretty easy. You got the customer, but then you need solid and good relationships with the people with cars. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm also seeing some win-win-wins here where they're selling cars, getting rid of inventory. The valets have nice gig work, and you guys are making money, right?
Yeah.
So what is the business model for you guys to make money in this
Yeah.
situation?
So it's I like to think, I mean, there are a couple of different ways to look at it. So, it's a B2B to C play, a marketplace play. So, consumers pay a little something, the dealers pay a little something. And then on the transaction, if if they execute a car deal, then they pay us a little something. We designed it that way on purpose because when you're disrupting any industry, you have to eliminate all barriers for entry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the best example of that was Divvy, right? I mean, Divvy, they figured out, hey, we're gonna make this software free, and they figured out a way to monetize in the transaction.
Yeah.
So we look at ourselves right now. Our business model is a little bit more similar to even maybe a Homey, right? There's no subscription for the dealers to be on the platform. Everything is based on, just the transactions.
Yeah.
Transactions and executing test drives.
Yeah. But relationships with all the dealers, that's part of the...
Yeah, we got 3 customers in everything. I mean, and I'm sure this idea has been had by, 1,000 other people all across the country, right? I mean, that's another little lesson that you learn sometimes when I talk to like other entrepreneurs or someone, comes to you with an idea. They hear you're in a startup, and then everyone wants to tell you their idea, which is awesome. I love it. But everyone's always afraid. They're always like, well, so I don't want anyone to steal it.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna steal it. So we gotta go in stealth mode.
Yeah.
We don't want anyone to know, and then we're gonna blossom like a rose, and all of a sudden, everyone's gonna be using us.
Right.
Nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares. If they steal your idea, there's probably a reason why it already isn't something anyway. Yeah. And probably because they either gave up or, the timing was off, whatever, So don't pay attention to competitors, right? But I actually lost my train of thought where the original question was now. Sorry, I got off on a total tangent.
No, love the tangent. It's, the relationship with the
relationship with dealers. Yeah. So when you're, we didn't want to do, everyone wants subscription, especially like when you're talking, in the VC world, right? Evaluations and things like that. Like MRR is king, ARR, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of similar into Homey because it's, a transaction and marketplace transaction. But you have to get people, you have to have a supply, and then you have to have demand in any marketplace business. So first you have to build your supply, and your barrier has to be nothing, especially when you're looking to disrupt the transaction or disrupt the customer experience like we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because on your website, which again is way fun.
Look at dude, you are plugging. I love it.
Even if you don't have 2 nickels to rub together, you can at least fantasize.
Yeah.
There's lots of pictures of lots of cool cars and vans and all sorts of stuff. So that didn't happen miraculously, right?
No, it's a really fun part of the story. So, we went out and started raising last year, and doing the rounds with all the local venture firms, and a few out of California, a couple out of New York, and then we ended up, you go down the funnel. It took us about 6 months to get a term sheet, and then once you sign the term sheet, for the lead in the firm that was going to lead the round, then you're going through due diligence. And so one of the things that was really funny for me to realize, and still is funny, is you put all your energy into making this little baby turn into something that's investable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go and you shop for money, right? And you're pitching and you're telling the story over and over and over again. Then you get that term sheet and you're like, oh, and you have this feeling of dude, I made it. All my problems are going to be solved. Then you go through due diligence. And then there's this time period, right, where you're still waiting for that to happen. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, at that point we had about 12 dealerships that had opted into use our services. I'm like, well, I'm going to build some supply. So I'm just waiting for this due diligence to happen and this money to come in. Well, what are we going to do? So we started sprinting and went out and signed up as many dealerships as possible because I wasn't going to wait.
Yeah.
You can't wait.
Yep.
No one's going to do it for you, and money's not going to solve the problem.
No.
You know, you just got to go.
Yep.
So in 3 months, we added 100 and it was like 125 dealerships and about 10,000 cars.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you can laugh at it and say, yeah, okay, yeah, but dude, how hard is it? You know, you're giving away something for free. You're telling them you list their cars for free. Yeah, but at the same time, you're also educating them and saying, hey, we're going to bring you customers, but we're going to take control from you guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to deliver these ourselves.
Yep.
And to get that many dealerships to opt into that, it was a really fun experience for me because it like solidified, okay, we have product market fit.
Yeah.
On the dealership side.
Yeah.
You know, they see the problem. They're willing to opt into this weird new thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, there's another little weird lesson there. Once you sign your term sheet, that doesn't mean anything. You got to still keep sprinting. Yeah. You know, don't waste time.
More problems.
Right. Yeah, and then the money comes in, and then, yeah, more money, more problems.
Well, yeah, like hustle and elbow grease, right?
Yeah.
When all else fails. So you probably lived in a small version of Groundhog Day, right? You're repeating yourself to investors. You're repeating yourself to the dealers. It's probably pretty good, though, for you and your team to, like, laser focus dial in, right? Like, all right, that was well received. We're going to keep going with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the pitch process is really fun like that because you're going to get, you know, you get a lot of no's, you get some ghosting, you get, you know, everyone. One thing I do love about it, though, is at the end, it's like, and I love all of our venture capital brothers and sisters. I think they're amazing what they do, right? Without them, like, probably this wouldn't exist where we're talking right now, you know, Silicon Slopes, right?
Yeah.
But I do think one funny thing is at the end of every meeting, they always say the same thing. Congratulations. Congratulations on what you've built. And they say it in the same intonation. And it's literally Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It's like they went to like a VC class and they're like, at the end of the pitch, make sure you say that. Anyways, so I always thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, but yeah, you get through that piece of it, you know, but at the same time, when you get those no's and you get those questions, I started taking notes on the questions they would ask because there were little gems and little things hidden in there from that perspective, from their perspective, that I hadn't thought about.
Yep.
You know, so one other thing too that I feel like we've learned over the process is every no is totally a blessing because there's little gems of wisdom in those no's that help you iterate to figure out what all the yeses are.
Yeah.
You know, which is just like a car deal.
Yeah.
When a car salesman is trained to talk to you, ask questions, and then that feedback, you're going to figure out what they're looking for.
Yep.
You know, and then close those doors.
Yep. Rarely is a no an eternal no, right? They can turn into
squirmy no. That's what we want, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay, got it. We'll be back with a different version, different pitch. All right. So you're in that. You're living in both worlds where you're, you know, fundraising and then you're pitching your baby out into the world. You're starting
pitching like selling it, not pitching like throwing my baby out of a train.
Your business baby. Maybe that should be your motto or your mascot.
There we go.
Baby.
A flying baby.
And then inevitably, you know, there's going to be some customers, right? And then maybe 10 and then 100. And as a kind of a first-time tech-enabled CEO, what is that like as you look into the future and see the scaling? How do you kind of circle the wagons and figure out what your next move is?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. First off, totally not technical. I'm with you, man. I do love Slack. I was introduced to Slack by some tech guys, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I'm the worst. And that's like been a really hard part too, is like you're trying to like, because you're like one of the founders, everyone expects you to know about everything.
Yeah.
And so you have to like kind of nod your head and be like, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, Figma, yeah.
Anytime somebody says
JavaScript.
API,
Yeah.
nod your
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds
API.
good. Yeah. Anyways, when I'm like, dude, I don't know. And then there's all these acronyms too. And I find myself like, oh yeah, I'm taking notes, but really I'm just on Google. Like, what does ACBMXYZ mean? You know? I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, the rotary girders. Gotcha. Yep. Anyways, but no, so with us, the way that we have thought about things is we want to be intentional about being having a strong relationship with our dealers, and maybe it's because I'm empathetic coming from that world that I don't want to turn this into a sob story testimonial for the car dealer. I mean, that's an uphill climb, but a lot of these guys they're small business owners, they're entrepreneurs at the purest level. All we think about is when we're looking for a car is, oh, there's a used car, that's a good price. I wonder if it's a pile of crap. I wonder if it's a lemon, and I wonder if he's lying to me. But you don't see on the back end, like that guy just went to an auto auction and he found it and grabbed it.
Yeah.
And then he got it for $2,000 and now he's selling it to me for 10. Ugh, But those guys work extremely hard. And, when they're at the movie theater, a date night with their wife or whatever, during the previews, they're on their phone scrolling through auction sites and doing research on those cars because they're trying to find, they're pricing out 3,000 cars that they're going to bid on next week, and they're going to get 4 of them.
Yeah.
It is incredibly time consuming. And then once you go through and you get them and they are transported here and you arrange that transportation, then you realize, oh crap, man, we got to fix all this stuff.
Right.
That handle's broken. That there's a scratch right there I didn't see in the picture,
Yep.
and so it's a grind.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we're a tool for them, and we're just trying to enhance and make them more efficient in every way.
Yeah.
Because that relationship's really important.
Yeah.
So we've been intentional about offering other services to them, logistics help, moving things around, picking up cars from auctions, for whatever we can do. Maybe they already sold it and they just want to get it in the customer's hands quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be that first line of defense for them so that they don't have to hire and have a fixed operation, a fixed operational cost, and they can utilize our gig network to execute.
Yeah.
So I think that's been really, really important for us. And now as we've built that goodwill and those relationships, now we want to push towards consumers and say, hey, there's this really cool little thing that you can do that you probably don't know about.
Yeah.
That's going to make your life a lot easier.
Yep. And I think entrepreneurs that come from a position of empathy, meaning they felt the pain, which you did.
Yeah.
It's always like a strong suit. Another advantage you guys have is the customer has a fun experience and they're a bit of a blabbermouth. You're going to get some free marketing there, right?
Yeah, it's really funny at the end of because everything like if you go to the site, order a car, we don't have an app. That's on purpose. Goes back to that idea, do things manually, right?
Yeah.
Got to shout out to Shane Jarrett. He's the one that taught me, do things manually until you can't. But everything goes through text.
Yeah.
And at the end of the experience, we send we have a simple CTA. That's an acronym. Call to action. Did not know that. That's something I learned in the last year and a half.
There you go.
Yeah. Marketing 101. That just says, hey, click on this link, take 20 seconds and give us a Google review.
Yeah.
We're a startup. We don't pay for fake reviews, and we send that. And so right now we're sitting at 407 Google reviews, which, isn't a ton. There's some there, but if you go through and read those, they sound fake. None of them are, the first 10, if you go back to the original 10, those are fake because those are our friends and family. When we were, we're first getting started, like, hey, come on, just give me a Google link, or give me a Google review.
Yeah.
I'll see you at Sunday dinner.
There you go.
Yeah. But after the first 10, every single one is an actual customer that uses us. And that's the only prompt that we've given them. And the testimonials are insane.
Yeah.
And we aren't feeding them lines or, we know it's genuine.
Yeah.
So that's been cool, but we do have an issue where, a car transaction happens once every 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you bought a car?
4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So we do have a barrier there where it's like in that moment once in 4 years, god dang, I hope that they remember.
Yeah.
I hope Garrett remembers that he can go to Zapmoto. You know,
Yeah.
How do we stay top of mind? How do we make things more sticky?
Yeah.
So
Just got to get more people to win the lottery.
yeah, man.
Hit that
If you
100.
win, seriously, you better be buying like 5 or 6 cars for like some of these guys or something too.
Okay.
What do you want? You want a Raptor? What about you?
3 Raptors, Judas Priest.
Yeah, seriously, man. Go with something different. You look like a WRX guy to me.
Or, when I've got friends or family from outside the state and we're cruising around, some of the more astute ones make this observation that Judas Priest, there's a lot of car dealerships in Utah. Is that true? It seems to be. There's a lot.
Are you a fan of Judas Priest? It's a great band.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. The dealership world is very robust here in Utah. We have great ecosystem. Larry H. Miller was a big catalyst of that, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to that organization. I mean, they built between them and the Garfs. They built a really strong and solid foundation. And I do think that there is an entrepreneurial spirit that exists here in Utah that maybe is different from other places.
Yeah.
Also, we have lower levels of regulation in automotive where a lot of people can get a dealer's license. It's restrictions have gone up over the years, especially after 2008 when everything crashed and a lot of dealerships went out of business and they started raising, requirements for bonds and things like that. But for the most part, yeah, I think Utah's a special place in that regard.
Yeah.
And we do also have sprawl. Even though there have been advances with, tracks and, UTA and front runner and things like that, still the quickest, best way to get from point A to point B is in an automobile. And secondarily, next to your home, it's kind of and your Instagram following, maybe it's probably the best status symbol that we have, that we're emotionally tied to having something nice parked in our driveway.
Yeah. Yeah. I drive a 10-year-old Subaru that got hit by I think it was a Rancherito burrito.
Ooh.
Right before it got cold. And it is a theft deterrent, I tell you that, because that Rancherito burrito is not coming off. So that's my status symbol.
I wonder if that was did Ron Burgundy throw that burrito at you?
Could have been. It was a
because we know that he throws burritos.
He does.
That's how we lost. That's how we lost Baxter. Remember, he threw the burrito at the motorcycle guy.
Don't want that.
Punted Baxter.
Yeah, like as a feeble-minded person, I'm driving down State Street and I'm looking at all these cars. I'm like, I just passed 5,000 cars. Who's buying all those cars, right? But it's a robust market and it's very fun. To your point, like there's old-fashioned auctions and there's arbitrage and like the whole thing is around hustle.
Yeah.
It's a really cool industry. All right, so scaling the team, growing the team, I assume that involves moving out into other markets once you're kind of validated here.
Yeah.
Kind of last question, what are you most excited about as you build out this business over the next year?
Oh man, that's a great question. It's funny. When you start off on your startup, all you think about are all the people that are getting the exits, like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. If this works, I'm gonna make so much money. But then as time goes on, it changes. And this sounds Pollyannish. This sounds, cliche, but it's true because all right, I remember when I was a kid, my dad was a doctor, right? And I remember asking my dad, I was like, hey, should I be a doctor? And he was always like, don't ever be a doctor, But then he would always talk about, though, that the one thing that carried him through all of his education and stuff was, if you're going to be a doctor, the ones that are good doctors do it because they want to care for people, and they're obsessed with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not because of the money. If you're doing it because of the money, you're going to suck and you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
If you're doing a startup and you're doing it because of the money, it's going to suck and it's going to be miserable. If you're doing it not for the money, it's still going to suck and it's still going to be miserable, but you're going to be able to get through it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about, I mean, you know, you wake up, I wake up every day and I'm like, I'm super excited about the day, and I will do this for free. And it feels like in a lot of ways I do.
Right.
You know? And so when you look at it, think about the future, I'm just excited to see the baby grow, man. And I know that there's going to be 1,000 different things that we do wrong, and there's going to be a catastrophe every other day, but then there's going to be that followed by a moment of pure bliss.
Right. When
we nail something, you know, and it literally is like a bipolar roller coaster.
Yeah.
You know, but I get cynical when I talk to other guys that are further along than me, that have had exits, and they're like, "Oh man," one of the favorite things they like to say is, "Dude, I miss those days. Where you're at right now, that's the best." And I'm like, "Dude, screw you, man. You're not like worried about like running out of money in the next year, you know?"
Right.
But at the same time, I do get it, because it's like to take something that didn't exist and fabricate it into existence and then have people use it, you know, and love it. Like,
yeah.
So I'm just excited. I'm excited to see it grow outside of Utah. I'm excited to help dealers, these little guys, these small businesses compete.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that stuck out to me that early on, so way back in the day, one of my neighbors came to me and was like, "Hey, my son, he's starting a business with a buddy. Can he come pitch you?" I was like, "All right. Yeah, send him down." Right. So these two guys come in into a store, and they're saying, "Hey, we got this thing where you sign up for it and we'll help you get Google reviews. And all you do is you put in the customer's name and number in this website here and hit send, and then we're going to text them a link to give you a Google review, and it's going to be great." I'm like, "Okay." And as a favor, I was like, "Yeah, dude, like, let's talk about it, but we'll sign up."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was Eric Ray and Dennis Steele, and we were like the second or third business that signed up with them. It was called Rep Drive back then.
Yep.
Anyways, and so a few years back, it was like a year or whatever, I talked to my neighbor too, and I'm like, "Hey, would it be okay if I called Dennis and tell him what I'm doing?" Like, it was like full circle. Anyways, but meeting with him and getting advice from him, and he's been absolutely terrific. Understanding their mission too, like, hey, we just want to help small businesses
mm-hmm.
have a tool in their toolbox that, you know, can help their interactions, can help them, you know, get Google reviews and things like that. But really, it's all built on the back of small business. And I see, like, that resonated with me because I came from that world. And I'm excited to see us help these small businesses, these mom and pop dealerships, compete against the onslaught of change that's coming, man. As, you know, Ford, Toyota, GM, as they say, "Hey, this Tesla thing's pretty sweet. Why don't we sell direct to consumers? And let's figure out a way to finagle out of these franchise agreements."
Right.
You know, or the Carvanas and the Vrooms, which lose money hand over fist, are saying, "Hey, we can inflate the market, and we're going to get on every single auction nationwide, and we're going to bury everybody because we can bid more on each car because we have more money in our coffers, and we're going to run these guys out of business."
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we're gonna give these guys an edge.
Love it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see that happen too.
Great answer. Last question, probably one word answer. Favorite car?
I actually love. I had a Raptor. I bought a Raptor when they did the remodel. It was in 2017 or 18, and at that point, I still was involved in the dealerships, and that was that truck was awesome. A buddy of mine worked at the local Ford store, and I whispered in his ear, and I said, "Hey, man, if anyone ever cancels a Raptor order, just call me." And one night at 9:30 at night, he's like, "Dude, guy just pulled his deposit and it just came off the truck." And I'm like, "I'm coming to get it."
There you go.
Anyways, and so yeah, I would switch out my truck or car that I was driving, like my demo, every 2 or 3 months. But that Raptor I kept for a year. I really enjoyed that one.
Very cool. All right. CTA time, call to action.
Oh, geez.
If you are a dealership or a person looking for a car, where do you go?
Yeah, you just go to zapmoto.com. Super easy instructions. You find your car there. If you already found one at maybe another marketplace too, and you don't see it listed with us, you can still hit us up there, initiate a conversation with us just via text, a couple of little bubbles there that you can click on, and we'll reach out to them for you, so you don't and try to grab that car from them and bring it down to you, so you don't have to go and sit in the dealership for 3 hours.
Love it.
As we wind down though too, I do want to do a quick shout out. That's Nathan Ricks had that tragic accident last week, and he's one of the guys that I feel like really built this ecosystem to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give him credit,
Absolutely.
for everything that he's done in Utah on the Wasatch Front. Great guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of us wouldn't be here without his foresight and investments that he's made in a lot of us.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Clint. Thank you so much, and congrats on what you're building.
Congrats to you
All right.
on your pending lottery check that's going to come in once you win.
Yeah, it's only going to benefit you guys. All right. Thanks, Clint. Appreciate it.